Learn how to create an awesome dripping effect using Adobe Photoshop. Let's get started. Hi, and thanks for joining. It's Amit from Design Hackers. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this image and apply a dripping Photoshop effect for it. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So everything in this tutorial is going to be shared with you. All the assets that I'm using are free for commercial use. So you can download them in the link below and practice, because practice makes perfect. The first thing we're going to do is to isolate this image. Now, there are many techniques to isolate. This tutorial is not about isolating, but I will show you a quick little hack that Photoshop introduced in the latest version. So to isolate the image, I'm just going to double click on it to change it from a background to a regular layer. And over here in the properties pane, I'm going into quick actions. And over here we have a new button that's called Remove Background. I'm just going to click on that once, and that just isolates the image automatically, which is really awesome. Now, if you don't see the properties pane, of course you can open any pane from the Windows menu over here, or just change your workspace to Essentials. We're going to apply this mask on the person. So right now it's a mask. I want to apply it. So right click on the mask over here and then click Apply Layer Mask. Perfect. Now it's a rasterized version of this isolated guy over here. The next step is bringing in our dripping effect. It's a vector file. Now you can create your own vector files in Adobe Illustrator and draw this however you want, or you can download from a website like FreePic or something like that. And you can download this asset from the folder I shared in the comments. So I'm just going to click on that once. I'm going to copy it, Command or Control C. And inside of Photoshop, I'm jumping back into Photoshop, and I'm going to paste it, Command or Control V. Over here, you have all sorts of options how you want to paste this in. So the option that I want you to use is Shape Layer. The reason I want to use the shape layer is because now this layer can be adjusted inside of Photoshop. Command or Control T to transform our dripping shape. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and try to cover all the parts that I want to cover with my new mask. So over here, we're trying to cover the full width of the body. And you can play around with this a little bit until you get the effect that you want. Next thing, I want you to change the color of the shape. So we want not white and not black, something that will contrast with our shape, just so we can see that. So we can really see it, because when it was white, we didn't see it so good before. And the next thing is selecting our direct selection tool, which is a white mouse icon on the menu. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the rest of the parts of the face. So I need to select over here the top 2 points, and using my Shift and Up key on the keyboard, I'm going to drag this all the way up. Now I'm using Shift just so it will be a bit faster. You can use only your Up key, but that will take more time. So perfect. We've covered everything that we wanted. And now when I'm still selected on my direct selection tool, I can right click and select over here, Make Selection. Over here in the Make Selection dialog, you should choose Feather Radius 0, because we want this not to be so soft, but we want it to be hard. So I'm going to click OK. And now you can see there's a selection around the new shape. The next step is to go back to the layer of the subject and just click on that. And down here in the layers part, we can select Add Layer Mask. That will mask our new selection on the new subject. So I've clicked on that, and now we can see only the red shape because it's above our mask. So hide the shape, and we've got an awesome dripping effect, exactly like we wanted. Now what's nice when using masks is that you can always adjust them. So if you want to adjust this mask and maybe round some parts a little bit more or fix some parts, you just click on the brush tool. Make sure you're on a black color. You want your foreground to be black. And now you can go around your shape and start fixing whatever you want and adjusting it and rounding it however you want. I'm not going to take too much time doing this. I just wanted to show you that you have the option to do it if you want to. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a background. Now it depends what your needs are. You might not need a background, but if you want to, you can add it using this function over here, which is adding a gradient background. So I'm just gonna click gradient. And over here in the drop down, there are all sorts of presets. So for example, if you want a purple preset, you can just click on the purple and you'll get it. We can change the gradient from linear to radial. And we can play around with the spot of the radial gradient. So I'm just gonna move it up here and click OK. We want this new layer to be beneath our subject, so just drag and drop in the layers pane. Looking good. And another thing that I'm going to do is I just want this dripping effect to have a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to click on my subject, right click, and go into blending options. Over here we can just turn on drop shadow. And you can see it's just adding a small little shadow to our subject, which looks pretty good. You can play around with the opacity just to make it more subtle. And we can also click on bevel and emboss. Bevel and emboss will add some highlights that just make it a little bit more 3D. You can play around with the angle if you want. And the last thing I'm going to do to sign off this little video tutorial is I'm going to add another layer with a splash effect. Now this can be found also in the assets folder that I'm sharing in this video. Click on File, place an embed, select the water, and I downloaded this by the way from Pixabay, which is also a free commercial use website for images and assets. Select place, and once it's still transformed, we can start playing around with this and moving it however we like. We can rotate it if we want. We do want to move this behind our subject, so I'm going to drag it between our background and subject. And now you can play with the blending options right here in the drop down. So what's nice is that you can jump between the different blending options using your up or down key. And for example, this one is really cool. It's color dodge. And let's just play around with this until we find something cool. Also, this one is awesome, which is difference. And I think we're about done. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you like the channel, please subscribe and get posted about new tutorials in our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.